Coming up on Jerusalem Dateline, talks with Iran continue as the U.S. ramps up its military presence in the Middle East, sending in a second aircraft carrier. Middle East expert Dan Diker talks about the enemy on the doorstep of Western countries that Christians and Jews must face together. And New Yorkers weigh in on their experiences under the leadership of their new mayor, Zoran Mamdani. All this and more coming up on this edition of Jerusalem Dateline. Hello and welcome to this edition of Jerusalem Dateline. I'm Julie Stahl. The world is watching Geneva today, where high-stakes diplomacy between the U.S. and Iran is colliding with growing threats of military action. The outcome could reshape the Middle East. Here's the latest on these and other stories. In Jerusalem, Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu told American Jewish leaders President Trump wants to exhaust the possibilities of a deal with Iran, which he thinks he can achieve now.
I will not hide from you that I express my skepticism of any deal with Iran because, frankly, Iran is reliable on one thing. They lie and they cheat.
Netanyahu says any deal must include several components for the security of Israel, the U.S., the region, and the world.
First is that all enriched material has to leave Iran. The second is that there shall be no enrichment capability. And the third is to deal also with the questions of ballistic missiles. And the fourth is dismantle the axis of terror that Iran has built.
On Friday, a senior Iranian official reiterated that Iran's missile program is non-negotiable and said the Iranian military remains on high alert. Trump said Iran only wants to talk but not take action. When asked, he indicated he also favors a regime change.
Well, it seems like that would be the best thing that could happen.
Trump is also sending a second aircraft carrier, the largest in the world, to the region. The USS Gerald R will join the USS Abraham Lincoln as the second round of mediated talks between the U.S. and Iran are set to begin in Geneva on Tuesday. Secretary of State Marco Rubio noted that no one has ever made a successful deal with Iran, but they are trying.
I'm not going to talk about attacks on Iran or anything of that nature because the president's made clear he prefers diplomacy and an outcome of negotiated settlement. Now, we're dealing with radical Shia clerics, okay? We're dealing with people who make geopolitical decisions on the basis of pure theology, and it's a complicated thing.
Iran's exiled Crown Prince, Reza Pahlavi, called on Trump to take action.
To President Trump, you've deployed a massive armada and have signaled unmistakably that brutality's time is ending. The Iranian people heard you say help is on the way, and they have faith in you.
Speaking on the sidelines of the Munich Security Conference, Pahlavi said it's time to end the Islamic Republic and not try to fix the regime.
I don't think these negotiations will amount to anything. The regime is simply buying time yet again, but every day that goes by, more people could die.
Hundreds of thousands joined protests around the world calling for regime change in Iran, with the biggest crowds in Munich, Los Angeles, and Toronto.
We support the Iranian people. We are Iranian. We support everybody for the freedom. And then if the people around the world, they want the world without the terrorists, the best choice is they support the Iranian people now.
After those rallies, anti-government chants reportedly were heard from balconies and windows in cities across Iran.
After weeks of U.S. military buildup in the Middle East, the United States and Iran are engaging in the next round of high-stakes talks today in Geneva, and it could determine whether the region moves forward in diplomacy or conflict. Iran's foreign minister met with the head of the UN nuclear watchdog Monday. The top Iranian diplomat posted on X that he brought real ideas for a deal, but said what is not on the table was submission before threats. President Trump says he'll be indirectly involved in those talks.
I don't think they want the consequences of not making a deal. They want to make a deal.
In Jerusalem, U.S. Senator Lindsey Graham met with Prime Minister Netanyahu and U.S. Ambassador Mike Huckabee, saying an American decision on action against Iran is weeks, not months away.
The best answer to all the problems created by Iran is regime change. The best answer is for the people to take the place of the Ayatollah.
Holding a Make Iran Great Again cap, Graham says the U.S. must deliver on its pledge to help Iranian protesters.
We're on the verge of eliminating the largest state sponsor of terrorism in the region. And with the fall of Iran comes the fall of Hezbollah, Hamas, the Houthis. Normalization becomes far more likely.
Meanwhile, both Iran and the U.S. flexing their military muscle. Iran's Revolutionary Guard released video of a large naval exercise in the Strait of Hormuz. The U.S. responded with its own video of naval firepower, while the Air Force ordered more bunker-busting bombs. And in Gaza, Israel is issuing an ultimatum. In coordination with the Trump administration, the IDF is giving Hamas 60 days to disarm, including some 60,000 AK-47s used in the October 7th massacre. If Hamas refuses, Israel warns a full-scale war will resume.
Joining me now is our correspondent, Paul Petit. Well, Paul, the stakes are surely high with Iran, and so are the tensions. Lots going on with the talks today. What are your thoughts about this?
Yeah, it's really all coming down to the wire, right? I mean, for the last month, we've seen warships approaching the seas in the Middle East, and now today the talks leading up to that, President Trump, time and again, is saying they got to make a deal. Dire consequences if they don't make a deal. Hell to pay if they don't pay a deal, on and on. But it really comes down to today. And for the first time, or at least one of the first times, we heard from the Ayatollah in Iran, and he said, quote, "More dangerous than a fleet of warships is a weapon that can send them to the bottom of the sea." So now we're hearing from the Iranian side. And so, yeah, it all comes down today. You have Kushner, you have Wickoff, and you have a very shrewd negotiator with the foreign minister for Iran. So you can't take these negotiations lightly for multiple reasons.
Yeah, and we've said this before, but there's kind of a difference in the thinking. You were mentioning Turkey. Tell us about that.
Yeah, Turkey, and it's important for the viewers to understand here, in that it's sort of the Islamic political and foreign policy tool, if you would. This is how they think, and it's a wisdom that allows them to make concessions, even deceptions, if it meets the end goal of their political terms, or their cultural terms. And as you know, the terms here are very dire. They want to control humanity, right? They want to wipe out Western democracy. And so that's, I think, what Netanyahu was referring to the other day, the prime minister, when he said, two things we know about Iran. Number one, they lie, and number two, they cheat. So in other words, it gives them this license, if you will, that they could say anything, do anything, make concessions, and then turn around and avoid those, sort of this ends justify the means sort of strategy.
Right, yeah, and we've talked about this before, the idea of hudna, where you actually make a deal until you can regain your strength, regain your power, and then you do what you want to do. And we know they want to wipe out Israel. They've been trying for a long time. They've already said they're not going to talk about missiles. They're not going to talk about what we call terror groups, their proxies. So where are we at? What is the point of these talks?
Yeah, my understanding for today's talks, at least, and this is the second time we've been at the table here, is we're just talking nuclear. So again, to your point, missiles aside, terrorism aside, just what is it going to look like from a nuclear standpoint? And the other part is what's also not on the table supposedly today is the protests, right? We saw this throughout the early parts of January, and as of now, we're just talking nuclear with today's talks in Geneva.
Yeah, and we've heard actually personal reports of coming out of Iran of somebody that we were connected with, that a relative of his was actually shot in the face in the last few days with a paintball or whatever it is, aiming for the eye. Thank God it didn't hit the eye. So we know this is still going on. We know the protesters are still being hunted, and the regime, I guess, is afraid. So they're doing what they can do.
Yeah, and you heard from Senator Graham, he doesn't want to forget about that, right? He said, we got to make good on our promise. We made a promise here, all right? Trump made a promise here saying that we got your backs. So if this isn't part of the conversation at some point, then it puts the Iranian protesters in danger again, because without the U.S. backing, they got a target on their back, and we don't want to see more bloodshed in Iran right now.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. Yeah. And if they're willing to do that to their own people, they could care less about anyone else.
Absolutely.
Thank you, Paul, for joining us. When we come back, Middle East analyst Dan Diker on a cultural threat facing us all. This week, the second gathering of the Judeo-Christian Zionist Congress is meeting in the U.S., and it's got ambitious goals. It seeks to strengthen Israel and strategize about the global onslaught of Islamic extremism. Dr. Dan Diker is one of the leaders of this Congress, and he spoke before the event with our bureau chief, Chris Mitchell, about what's at stake.
So a lot of people that are going to be watching this are Christians, sometimes pastors, don't have necessarily the advantage of being here, living here, studying it. What is it important? What's important for them to understand about what's happening in the Middle East right now?
Well, Chris, it's a very important question because we are standing at a civilizational moment in the sense that we are together Judeo-Christian civilization, which began in the Middle East. It began where we're sitting in the middle of the Holy City, in the middle of Jerusalem. I mean, we're 1 kilometer away from the Church of the Holy Sepulchre and from the Western Wall to the great First and Second Temples, and also the Al-Aqsa Mosque. I mean, all of Near East and Western civilization is right where we are. And this is what is very important for our Christian brothers and sisters and the leadership of the Christian community to understand. Especially, we realize in Israel that the vast majority of Zionists in the world are not Jewish. The Christian civilization, particularly the evangelical Christian community in the United States, tens of millions, it can get 80 or 90 million in this generation, certainly anyway. And so many Zionists, so many supporters of the Holy Land and the Jewish indigeneity in the Holy Land must realize that today, at this moment, in 2026, we need to join forces more than ever before around the notion of security and foreign affairs, not only about the holiness of Jerusalem, not only about our theological agape or brotherhood, but around defending, protecting, and securing our shared legacy and our shared history, and hopefully will be a shared future in the Holy Land, because it is under threat. It's under threat by radical and extremist Islamism. We saw it in living color in the past 20 years by Osama bin Laden, who was talking about the Zionist Crusader alliance. So we're from the point of view of the Islamists, we're in the same bowl, we're on the same target list, let's put it that way. And therefore we have to be able to return fire and expose our shared enemies and expose our common adversaries and really advocate for a stable and secure Judeo-Christian civilization that is very much rooted in this wonderful place called Israel and Jerusalem, the Holy Land. That is our new shared destiny.
We've covered a lot, Dan. Any final thoughts about, Palestine shall be free from the river to the sea, Iran, your thoughts?
Well, I think we can change the tune from the river to the sea. Palestine will be free, to from the river to the sea, Israel will be free. And if Israel is free, Judeo-Christian civilization will be guaranteed, and that is the victory of civilization over barbarism. And so from the river to the sea, Israel must be free and will be free. And I think that we Jews and Christians have to guarantee the freedom of Jerusalem, and peace will come out of strength, and peace will come out of the freedom of Jerusalem. Peace will spread not only to the Middle East, but to the rest of the world.
Yeah. Dan Diker, great to be with you.
Thank you very much, Chris. It was great to see you.
New York's new mayor has been called a socialist, a Marxist, and a communist. Many are concerned that Zoran Mamdani's statements and policy positions are creating a hostile environment for Jewish people. CBN's chief political analyst, David Brody, took to the streets to see what residents are saying. Take a look.
So help me God.
Zoran Mamdani comes across as all smiles as he promises so-called free programs and other services for all New Yorkers. While his leftist social views will surely be under scrutiny by conservatives and moderates, this city appears to have embraced him.
What's the deal with Mamdani? Why do you support him?
Oh, man, it's like, why wouldn't I? That's the question you should be asking. That's easier to answer.
Despite that affection, plenty of Jewish New Yorkers have a much different view.
Are Jewish New Yorkers on edge because of Mamdani?
Yes, yes.
Liz Burney is a researcher with the Zionist Organization for America. She keeps track of Mayor Mamdani's past views, statements, and policy positions, which have given her and others much to consider. For starters, Mamdani has consistently accused Israel of being an apartheid state while engaging in genocide against Palestinians. He's been active in anti-Zionist rallies and refused to condemn anti-Semitic language like From the River to the Sea and globalize the Intifada. Jeffrey Lax is a law professor at the City University of New York.
Globalize the Intifada means kill the Jews everywhere across the world. So you don't condemn that, a little bit of a problem.
After being sworn in as mayor, one of his first acts revoked the anti-Semitism definition set by the International Holocaust Remembrance Alliance. Mamdani felt it's too broad and restricts strong statements against Israel, but that can be a dangerous game.
Anti-Semites, what they try to do is restrict the definition of anti-Semitism. And all of this emboldens the anti-Israel groups.
Also on day one, Mamdani moved to allow New York City employees to participate in the boycott, divestment, and sanctions movement against Israel. Under the previous mayor, BDS involvement wasn't allowed. He's also threatened to arrest Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu for war crimes if he comes to New York. He also says he will not march in the city's annual Israel Day parade.
Mayor Mamdani lives here at Gracie Mansion behind me on the Upper East Side of New York. Now, we have asked multiple times for an on-camera interview, but so far, no response. Mamdani says he wants to root out anti-Semitism across all 5 boroughs, but so far, his actions have not matched his rhetoric.
His words sound good on the surface.
Protecting Jewish New Yorkers is going to be a focus of my administration.
I'm looking forward to being the mayor for every New Yorker, for every Jewish New Yorker.
Conservative Jewish New Yorkers, however, say they don't trust him.
He is using very fuzzy language. He's getting advised from his advisors about how to speak about this. But in his heart, what he wants to do is pure evil.
Even some influential rabbis who signal support for some of his progressive policy positions are concerned after meeting with him.
He believes that Israel has no right to exist at all as a Jewish state in any territory. It is the ideology of Hamas, Hezbollah.
And since Mamdani has taken office, that ideology has reared its ugly head. In Manhattan, an anti-Zionist crowd recently surrounded the Park East Synagogue. Karen Lichtbaum, a pro-Zionist defender who was at the event, couldn't believe what she saw.
The police permitted the anti-Zionists to cross the street and protest in front of the synagogue. That was outrageous.
So you're looking for, like, hey, there needs to be a level of protection here.
It's not permissible to intimidate anyone from going into a house of worship. Why is this being permitted? You know, to protest right in front of a synagogue.
Are they just empowered? These groups are empowered more? Is that your concern?
Oh, without question, because they know that there are no repercussions to their actions. They know that the mayor supports them.
She's right. Mamdani's initial response included criticizing the synagogue for holding an event he deemed controversial.
We're under attack, and we can't sit on the sidelines and wait for other people to keep us safe.
Case in point, at the famous Hasidic World Headquarters in Brooklyn, a man intentionally and repeatedly crashed his car into the building. In that incident, Mamdani did show up to condemn it.
Any threat to a Jewish institution or place of worship must be taken seriously.
The attacks, however, seem to keep coming. In Queens, anti-Semitic chants of "We support Hamas" were heard outside a local synagogue. Also, swastikas showing up on a children's playground in an Orthodox area of Brooklyn. Liz Burney's grandson attends an overtly Jewish school. He's been targeted by random strangers.
He said that somebody threw a heavy brick of ice at him. And I'm hearing that a lot of the kids are getting screamed at all the time.
The City University of New York is right in the thick of it as well. Once a popular choice for Jewish students, The college is now considered by some to be the most anti-Semitic in the country. Professor Lax has been harassed, assaulted, and threatened in anonymous letters.
These letters that you get, have you had death threats?
I've had a lot of threats. Yeah, threats to come after me in different ways. Many, many threats, yes. Do I sometimes feel it's dangerous for me on campus? Yes. There have been incidents where I've been surrounded. There was one in particular where 6 Marxist lunatic faculty members encircled me, just out of the blue, out of nowhere. But it was clearly coordinated.
This growing angst has many New York Jews wondering, what's next?
What's the worst case scenario here under Mamdani?
Well, I think the worst case scenario is not just the worst case, but also the most realistic because of the way he's spoken. I think you're going to see mass boycotts of Jewish-owned businesses in New York City. Any connection to Israel whatsoever, if your grandfather or the owner of the store lived in Israel, they're going to be boycotted. And Mamdani is going to support it. Why do I think that? He said that.
Add that to the long list of worries already coming from Jewish New Yorkers inside the Big Apple. David Brody, CBN News, reporting from New York.
Immigrating to a new country can be taxing enough. CBN Israel heard about one woman who faced unusual challenges during her transition, which is when they stepped in to help. Take a look.
Raised in Russia, Victoria found herself increasingly drawn to Israel, where her relatives lived. With every visit, the feeling of home deepened.
We applied to immigrate to Israel, but everything is complicated for an immigrant. Here, everything that you are used to is gone.
The transition wasn't easy. Sadly, the move took a toll on her marriage, and her husband left her soon after they arrived in Israel.
My husband and I are now in the process of divorce. When he left, he took the furniture. My daughter has had to sleep with me on a mattress on the floor. My co-worker found out about my situation and told me to reach out to CBN.
Victoria found much-needed encouragement when she met with CBN Israel staff. She felt a shift, a sense that things in her life were finally turning a corner. The team not only delivered new furniture, but also spent time with her, offering motivation and guidance for the path ahead.
This furniture has made the apartment much more comfortable, and that's important. It makes things easier. It may not seem like much. It's just furniture, but these things have improved our home 100%.
Thanks to you, Victoria and Nicole now have one less burden, allowing them to focus on building their new life in Israel.
Nicole will have her own bed. She was really waiting for it so she can have her own bed sheets that she picked out. Now we have a place to organize her things. She knows where everything is, and she comes and picks out what she wants to wear.
CBN Israel is making a tangible difference, empowering Victoria to not only feel encouraged, but also fully enabled to care for her daughter.
I did not know that people helped like this. Honestly, I was speechless. I couldn't believe it. I would like to say a huge thank you for giving us this opportunity.
What a great story. That's all for this edition of Jerusalem Dateline. Thanks for joining us. Remember, you can follow us on social media, and you can also access CBN content through our CBN News and other CBN apps. Please keep praying for Israel, the peace of Jerusalem, and for all those caught in harm's way. And pray especially for the protection of the people of Iran who are crying out for freedom. Remember, the God who's watching over Israel, and you and me, neither slumbers nor sleeps. I'm Julie Stahl. For all of us here at the Jerusalem Bureau, we'll see you next time on Jerusalem Dateline.